of November 6th, 2020. Now, from what I understand, it was his album release party
Yeah,
that night?
that night, the previous club.
Yeah, at a different club. And you were with him and everything else like that.
Yeah,
and
for sure. I'm always with him with anything, shows, videos. I'm his day-to-day.
Yeah.
I'm him and Melly day-to-day manager. So.
And he had like 3 or 4 armed security with him
Facts.
during that time.
Yes.
But then he ended up kind of going off on his own to an after-hours spot. And that was at the Monaco Hookah Lounge.
I'm not sure the place, but yeah.
And from what I understand, he showed up there and then he hit everyone else up and then you guys kind of went to go meet him there.
Yeah, he didn't hit up. He went over there to the after party and then his driver and his homeboy let us know that we was redirected. We thinking we're gonna go to the Airbnb or the hotel, and then we reconnected there. I think Vaughn per se, I think he was on the phone just having conversations, just enjoying himself.
Yeah.
So we got the news that we was redirecting from his driver and his homeboy, and we all met him there.
Well, in the academics interview, you said that Vaughn wasn't in his right state of mind that day.
Yeah.
So explain to me what his state of mind was that night.
When I say the right state of mind, I'm just trying to rationalize the situation. So let me clearly state what I mean by that. I'm used to Vaughn moving a certain way, being with him for almost 2 years, seeing how he moves with the shows, with his guys, and just kind of being very, very alert. When I say he wasn't in his right mind, it was just, I guess it was a lot going on. You had Boss Top birthday, you had a lot of people from Chicago that he hadn't seen in a minute, and it was album release, it was excited. So it was just so much things that you could just say that it was a little bit not normal when I know the way.
Y'all, 100K track just went in, and what he revealed about King Von has the entire internet in shock. This isn't another vague story. This is Von's own manager, the man who was there, who handled the business, who saw the circle up close, finally breaking down why Von trusted the wrong people. And the way he told it? Absolutely insane. Fans who thought they already knew the full story are sitting in silence. Because Track didn't just give soft details. He started pointing at the energy around Von, the decisions that got made, the people who were allowed close when they should have been kept at a distance. Every sentence feels heavier than the last. Clips are already being slowed down and stitched with old footage from that final Atlanta night. The comments are pure chaos. Some are saying this changes everything. Others are saying they always felt something was off about who Von kept near him. But nobody is scrolling past it. When the man who actually managed King Von says the trust was misplaced, and then lays out why, the culture has no choice but to listen. This one doesn't feel like regular interview talk. It feels like a door that was supposed to stay closed just got kicked open. Buckle up. The real story is finally coming out. The moment 100K Track started talking, the energy in the interview shifted. This wasn't the usual polished manager speak. This was the man who actually handled King Von's business, who was around for the final run, who saw the circle from the inside, finally laying out what he had been holding. And he didn't ease into it. He went straight at the question that has followed Von's name since November 2020. Who was really around him, and why did the trust go where it went? Track made it clear from the jump that Von's loyalty ran deep, sometimes deeper than the situation deserved. He talked about how Von moved with the people he considered his own, how he flew them out, how he made sure the same faces were in the rooms when the money and the attention started rising. According to Track, that loyalty was one of Von's strongest traits, and also one of the things that left him exposed. The way Track described it, Von didn't just keep people close. He kept them close even when the energy around certain names had already started to feel off. Fans who had followed every previous interview suddenly sat up. Because this wasn't a vague comment. Track began breaking down the pattern. He spoke on the decisions that got made in the final stretch, the nights that should have ended earlier, the faces that were allowed into spaces they maybe shouldn't have been. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The calm in his delivery made every line land harder. Within minutes of the first clips hitting the timeline, the internet lost it. Reaction pages started uploading. Comment sections filled with the same phrase over and over. He really just said that. What made the revelation hit different was the source. This wasn't an outsider or a blogger. This was the manager who had skin in the game, who had been in the trenches with Vaughn, who still speaks about protecting the legacy. When that man starts pointing at the circle and saying the trust was misplaced, the culture has to listen. Clips of track speaking were immediately placed next to old footage from the Atlanta trip. The album release energy. The decision to keep the night going. The after-hours move. Suddenly, every old video carried new weight. Track kept going. He described how Vaughn's instincts were usually sharp, how he could read a room better than most, but how loyalty sometimes overrode the read. He talked about the pressure of the moment, the music exploding, the city watching, the need to move with the same people who had been there before the fame. In Track's telling, that pressure created blind spots. People who should have been kept at a distance were given access. Conversations that should have stayed tighter were allowed to open up. And once that door was open, the wrong energy had a way in. The reaction across the culture was instant and divided. One side of the timeline treated Track's words like missing pages from the real story. They said this is what the streets had been whispering for years, that Vaughn's heart was too open with the wrong faces in the final chapter. The other side pushed back, saying no manager can fully know every personal bond, and that blaming the circle after the fact is too easy. Both sides kept the clips in circulation. The more the debate grew, the more of Track's interview got cut up and spread. Old voices started getting pulled in almost immediately. Clips of people who were around Vaughn in Chicago and on the road began resurfacing with new captions. Some fans pointed to certain names that Track's description seemed to circle without fully landing on. Others warned against turning a serious conversation into a guessing game. The tension only climbed. Every new Stitch video added another layer. Track's voice. Old Atlanta footage. Vaughn performing. The date. The same cycle on loop. What kept the first wave from cooling down was how specific Track got about the pattern of trust. He didn't just say the wrong people. He described the behavior. The ones who showed up heavier when the lights were brightest, the ones who stayed quiet when the energy got real, the ones who benefited from proximity without carrying the same risk. Fans said listening to it felt like someone finally putting language to a feeling a lot of people had carried since the news first broke. By the time the initial clips had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, the interview was no longer just content. It had become a reference point. People were going back to older 100K Track conversations and lining them up with this new one. They were comparing what he said years ago to what he was willing to say now. The consistency in his frustration about the circle made the latest comments land even harder. It felt less like a one-off statement and more like something he had been sitting with for a long time. The story was only getting started. Track still had more to say about the night itself, about the decisions that stacked on top of each other, and about how the trust Vaughn gave certain people became part of the final equation. And the culture was already locked in, waiting for the next piece. As the first wave of clips kept spreading, new voices started answering 100K Track one after another, and every fresh name pushed the temperature higher. Lil Durk's old posts and statements from the period right after Vaughn's death began circulating again almost immediately. Fans paired them with Track's latest comments about the circle and the trust that got misplaced. The contrast was sharp. On one side you had the manager breaking down how certain people were allowed too close. On the other side you had Durk's public grief and the protective energy he showed in those early days. Comment sections turned into arguments about whether the two accounts could sit in the same story without clashing. Some fans said Track was finally saying what the streets already knew. Others said any conversation about wrong people around Vaughn still has to go through the OTF lens first. The debate only made more people hit play on the original interview. Asian Doll entered next. Old lives and posts where she spoke about the energy around Vaughn in his final stretch got pulled back up and stitched directly under Track's clips. She had always been vocal about loyalty and about who was really there versus who showed up for the cameras. Fans slowed down her old statements and placed them next to Track's description of misplaced trust. Some heard her words as confirmation. Others heard them as a warning not to let outsiders rewrite the circle after the fact. The comments under those Stitch videos got nasty fast. Accusations flew in both directions. The internet lost it every time a new old clip of hers got attached to Track's interview. Kayla B's presence followed in the same wave. Posts she made about protecting her brother's name and about people who only surface when the story gets profitable were being screenshotted and dropped into the same threads. Fans treated her words like a boundary. Some said Track's revelations respected the boundary by staying focused on patterns instead of reckless name-calling. Others felt any public breakdown of the circle still risks turning family pain into content. The split under her old posts became its own war. Every reply kept the original 100K Track clips in rotation longer. Then the Atlanta night itself got dragged back into the center. Old footage from the album release energy, the decision to keep the night going, and the move to the after-hours spot started getting re-edited with Track's audio laid over it. Fans highlighted the exact moments where Track talked about the wrong energy being allowed close. Side-by-side videos stacked the manager's calm explanations against the chaos of that final night. The effect was brutal. People who had watched those Atlanta clips for years said they hit completely different once Track's words about trust were playing underneath. Boozy Badass jumped in the way he usually does. A short live clip circulated where he spoke on managers and the people artists keep around them when the money starts moving. He didn't name Track directly in the portion that spread, but the timing made the connection obvious to everyone watching. Fans immediately placed Boozy's comments next to the interview. Some said it added street weight to Track's point. Others said it only muddied the water. Either way, another major voice was now inside the conversation, and the timeline absorbed it without slowing down. DJ Academic's old interviews with Track got clipped hard in the same period. Segments where Track had previously spoken about the night, the circle, and the lessons learned were pulled up and compared to the newer statements. Viewers pointed out how consistent the frustration in Track's voice had been over the years. The more the old and new audio lined up, the stronger the current revelations felt. Reaction streams filled with people saying the same thing. He has been trying to tell this version of the story for a long time. Evidence-style posts kept dropping throughout. Screenshots of old Instagram stories from the Atlanta trip. Timestamps matching Track's descriptions. Short audio cuts focused only on the parts where he talked about loyalty overriding instinct. None of the material was brand new. All of it felt new because of the frame Track had just given it. Every fresh post pushed the views on the main interview higher. Timeline accounts worked overtime building longer threads that tried to map every public comment Track has ever made about the people around Vaughn. The emotional core of the second wave was the same uncomfortable question Track had forced into the open. How much of the final outcome came down to who was trusted and how far the trust was allowed to go. Fans who had always felt the circle played a role treated the interview like validation. Fans who pushed back said hindsight makes every decision look clearer than it was in the moment. Both groups kept watching. Both groups kept arguing. The middle of the timeline just kept refreshing. By the time the second full day of reaction settled, the story had expanded far beyond one manager's interview. It had become a full public audit of the energy that surrounded King Vaughn in his final chapter. And 100K Track's words were still sitting at the center of it, refusing to let the conversation cool down. The longer 100K Track's words stayed in circulation, the harder it became for the culture to treat them as just another interview. What he described was not a single bad night or one wrong face in the room. It was a pattern of trust that, in his telling, left King Vaughn more exposed than he needed to be. That framing refused to fade. Every new reaction, every old clip that got pulled back up, every argument in the comments only drove the same point deeper. The people around Vaughn in that final stretch carried more weight than the public had been willing to fully examine. The longer 100K Track's words stayed in circulation, the harder it became for the culture to treat them as just another interview. What he described was not a single bad night or one wrong face in the room. It was a pattern of trust that, in his telling, left King Vaughn more exposed than he needed to be. That framing refused to fade. Every new reaction, every old clip that got pulled back up, every argument in the comments only drove the same point. The division that formed in the first two waves hardened into something permanent. On one side were those who heard Track's account as long overdue clarity. They said the streets had always felt the circle played a role, and that a manager who was actually there finally put language to it. They kept the clips alive because they believed the real story requires looking at who was trusted and why that trust was not returned in the moments that mattered most. On the other side were those who pushed back hard. They argued that no outside voice, not even a manager, can fully measure the bonds Vaughn chose for himself. They said hindsight turns every complicated relationship into a simple mistake, and that some of the people being side-eyed in the comments were the same ones who had been with him long before the fame. Both sides spoke with real emotion. Neither showed any sign of standing down. What kept the pressure from dropping was the absence of a neat villain. Track did not hand the culture a single name to destroy. He described a pattern, loyalty that ran too deep, access that was given too freely, instincts that got overridden by history and heart. That kind of revelation is harder to dismiss and harder to weaponize cleanly. It sits in the middle of the timeline and forces people to sit with discomfort instead of easy answers. Fans who wanted a clear target found themselves arguing in circles. Fans who wanted the subject closed found it forced open again every time a new Stitch video dropped. The Atlanta night remained the gravitational center. Track's calm explanations about the energy, the decisions, and the people allowed close kept getting laid over the same old footage. The album release celebration. The choice to keep the night going. The move to the after-hours spot. Each time the audio played under those images, the sequence felt heavier. The culture has watched those clips for years. Hearing the manager who was in the middle of it describe the trust problem in real time changed the temperature of every frame. People who used to watch the footage in silence now watched it with Track's words in their ears, and the silence afterward got longer. The philosophical weight of the moment became impossible to ignore. At its core was a question the culture keeps returning to whenever a major name is lost too early. How much of the ending was written by the people who were trusted with the closest access? Track's answer was not soft. In his telling, the trust itself became part of the danger. That claim cuts against the usual loyalty slogans that dominate these conversations. It suggests that sometimes the real risk is not the obvious ops, but the faces that were given the benefit of the doubt one time too many. Some fans called that perspective necessary. Others called it a betrayal of the very bonds Vaughn lived by. The argument between those two readings is still running. In the end, 100K Track did not deliver a closed case. He delivered a longer shadow. He forced the culture to look at the circle around King Vaughn with less romance and more scrutiny. Whether that scrutiny brings anything like peace or only deeper conflict is something the timeline is still deciding in real time. The interview clips keep circulating. The old footage keeps getting re-edited. The sides remain locked. And the question Track put on the table refuses to leave. King Vaughn's story already carried enough pain. The manager who was there just added a layer that cannot be removed. The trust that was given, the people it was given to, and the cost that followed are now part of the public record in a way they were not before. The culture can argue about the details. It can no longer pretend the question was never asked. Now I need the real opinions from y'all. Do you believe 100K Track was right to break down how King Vaughn trusted the wrong people, or should some of those details have stayed private? And after hearing the manager who was actually there say the trust itself became part of the problem, does it change how you see the final chapter, or does it only open deeper wounds that were never going to heal clean? Drop your honest take below. No filter. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. If more of the interview surfaces or new voices answer back, we will be right here covering every part of it. This story is far from over.